What's happening, everybody? I'm Tyrone Bowman. This is Tyrone Bowman Tonight. President Biden was in Philadelphia over this past weekend. According to the Washington Post, quote, as Biden holds a flurry of events, his campaign slowly takes shape. The Biden campaign collects endorsements and holds a rally, but there is no headquarters, staffing is minimal, and fundraising is low. So, straight out of the city of Philadelphia, almost said brotherly love. Ain't too much love happening in the city right now. So, let's get right down to the essence of this story. President Biden came to Philadelphia on Saturday seeking to inject new urgency into his nascent reelection campaign, rallying a group of union organizers and framing a message that he hopes will win him another 4 years, that he inherited a series of disasters and has gone a long way toward making things better. It was just 1 mile and 4 years removed from the site where then candidate Biden formally launched his 2020 campaign. But this time, it has been more of a slow walk toward re-election, with his campaign infrastructure only now beginning to take shape. Biden's fundraising efforts, which got off to what insiders described as a disappointing start, are just beginning to pick up. He is starting to name more senior staffers, but has yet to open a campaign headquarters. His events over the past weekend have started to provide a window into the campaign as he has hosted core Democratic groups at the White House and boasted of some early endorsements. On Saturday, Biden sought to continue that sense of acceleration as he held a rally with the AFL-CIO, the nation's largest federation of unions. We've got a fight on our hands, and my question to you is simple. Are you with me? He said as a crowd of about 2,000 clad in colored t-shirts to represent their respective trades cheered and chanted, "Let's go, Joe." Biden cast his presidency as one that inherited a struggling economy, a devastating pandemic, and frayed global alliances, and responded by creating jobs, taming inflation, and reigniting diplomacy. I didn't come into office with a theory, I came into office with a plan, he said more than once. A day earlier, Biden demurred when asked if the rally showed he viewed as his campaign kickoff. I kicked it off a long time ago, he said, but on Saturday morning, he said, I'm excited about. This is the beginning of something big in terms of changing the economic balance. Asked whether he expected the campaign to grow nasty, he responded, well, it depends on who the nominee is. 2 months after quietly announcing his candidacy with a video, Biden is running without a traditional campaign operation. While the Republicans' race resembles a slugfest between former President Donald Trump and his rivals, Biden's operation is drifting ahead at a slower pace, betting that it can rely heavily on the Democratic National Committee's infrastructure for support until later in the summer and into the fall. The campaign is still building out because there's no reason for us to have a full-fledged campaign, said a senior Biden advisor, speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss the campaign strategy. We don't feel that we have to be out there campaigning mostly because we don't have an opponent. This approach, in essence, campaigning without a campaign, allows Biden to stockpile money that he can spend later when the race heats up and he has a clear opponent. But the slow ramp up may also make it harder for Biden to defend his rivals early in the process. It would be risky to rely on others to set up the ground operation for a re-election where turnout will be critical. The Biden campaign has fewer than a dozen full-time staffers. While the DNC has about 300, the campaign is still working out of the DNC's headquarters in Washington. Those staffers have started scouting office space in Wilmington, Delaware. And one official said they expected to open an office later this summer. The DNC has also taken the lead in gathering opposition research on Republican presidential hopefuls and responding to their message. Meanwhile, Biden's events attract at least some attention because he is the sitting president. Joe Biden doesn't need a big campaign operation right now, and it would be a waste of resources to try to build one, said Lisa Smith, a Democratic strategist who worked on Barack Obama's 2012 reelection campaign. It's very smart to rely on the DNC, and the DNC is in a very different position than it was at this point in 2011. And this is a very good thing for the Democratic Party. But those involved concede that the operation is hardly running at full speed. I'm not here to tell you that the race car is already built and it's out running laps on the track. DNC Executive Director Sam Cornell said in a statement to the Washington Post. I'm here to tell you that the chassis is, thanks to President Biden's incredible shape, and this is what the Biden-Harris campaign is building on top of. Still, the re-election effort appears to have gotten off to a particularly slow start in raising money. Biden's campaign has not yet hired a national finance director, frustrating some donors and advisors who feel the president's aides should have finalized the fundraising apparatus before launching the campaign. The 24-hour period after Biden officially announced usually amount of excitement that spurs a surge in donations was extremely underwhelming, according to multiple people briefed on the campaign's finances. Democrats say the Biden campaign is unlikely to struggle in the long term to raise money, especially if Trump is the Democrats say the Biden campaign is unlikely to struggle in the long term to raise money, especially if Trump is the Republican nominee. Rather, they worry that the sluggish early fundraising may signal a lack of enthusiasm around Biden's reelection. National polls show a majority of Democratic voters prefer someone other than Biden to be their party's presidential nominee, although they still prefer him by a wide margin to Trump or another Republican. The campaign is now scrambling to deliver a respectable quarter of fundraising, the period ending June 30, as Biden, Vice President Harris, First Lady Jill Biden, and Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff traverse the country over the next 2 weeks to participate in more than 20 fundraisers. The campaign declined to comment on its fundraising numbers, but it will be required to disclose those details after the quarter ends. There are other signs Biden's campaign has decided in recent days to quicken its pace, including the announcement of several key staffers who will start next month. Among them are Michael Tyler as communications director and T.J. Ducklow as a senior communications advisor. Ducklow worked on Biden's 2020 campaign and joined the White House as a deputy press secretary before resigning a few weeks later after it emerged that he had inappropriately berated a reporter. Tyler has worked at the DNC as well as the 2020 presidential campaign of Senator Cory Booker, a Democrat from New Jersey. Rob Flattery, the White House digital director, is slated to move to a senior role on the campaign in coming weeks with a person familiar with his plans. The Biden campaign also has been aggressively touting a slew of endorsements. The support of labor and environmental groups is hardly surprising for a Democratic president, but Biden's officials argue the early backing will let the campaign to draw on the group's expansive organizing network, and Biden himself is holding more events with a political or campaign flavor, including 4 fundraisers scheduled for next week during a trip to California. This article is continuously lengthy. I'm going to try to read a few more things about it, and then I'm going to be finished here. At a fundraiser Friday in Connecticut, Biden was alternately optimistic about the current state of politics, saying the recent debt ceiling negotiations showed that Washington is not as vitriolic as it has been, and sharp in his criticism of the Republican presidential candidates. Did you ever think we'd go through a time when the number 2 contender on the other team was banning books, he said in reference to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Throughout the past week, Biden also used the trappings of his office to court groups vital to his own campaign. On Tuesday night, he hosted a Juneteenth concert at the White House. I'm just so pleased to be able to have this celebration on the South Lawn of Juneteenth. And again, thank you. You fill my heart in a way he seemed too emotional to complete the sentence. And his daughter handed him a tissue. I'm Tyrone Bowman. Never surrender. Never quit.